it's much easier for people to remember things that they already have an association with. So if something's already in our brain, it's going to be easier for us to recall it later from our brain's dusty filing cabinet, because you never know when you're going to need to remember a name.
Let's blow this up.
Look alive, Bomb Squad. It is time for episode 2 of Let's Blow This Up. I'm your host, Jason Sircone, and whether you're listening to today's show on your favorite podcast app or you're joining in all the fun on YouTube, thank you for being here and being part of the Let's Blow This Up experience. Today, I am joined by the one and only Alexandra Watkins. Alexandra is the queen of brand names. If you've heard of the Baconator, the great sandwich offered at Wendy's, Alexandra is responsible for that name. She is the owner and founder of Eat My Words, the brand naming company that has been helping brands across the globe revolutionize their brand names and making sure they stand out in their market. She is also the author of Hello, My Name is Awesome. This is the book that I followed to a T when I came up with the name for Bombtrack Media, as well as the name of this podcast, Let's Blow This Up. Today on episode 2 of season 1, Alexandra is going to share with you why your brand name needs to be awesome and why this is something that you need to be putting strong consideration into right from the very start. And if you're looking to change your brand name, Alexandra is going to share how you do that effectively as well. We've got a great episode ahead, so I am going to step aside and let you dive into episode 2 of season 1 of Let's Blow This Up with none other than Alexandra Watkins. Let's get to it. All right, Bomb Squad, we are in the presence of royalty because the queen of brand naming is in the house with us today. We are joined by Alexandra Watkins. Welcome to Let's Blow This Up, Alexandra. It's great to connect with you again.
Yeah, likewise. I'm just laughing because I love Bomb Squad. That's awesome. I'm going to start talking about you in my presentations. In fact, I'm doing one on Thursday for Ty Lopez, and who's like the god. Right. And yeah, I'm going to put you in my presentation.
Oh, that is huge. I got to tell you, when I did the rebranding and the renaming, I followed your process to a T, and that's one of the big things we're going to talk about today. But getting your approval was when I knew I was on the right track. And I had some people that I ran it by that said, that sounds really cool. You should run with that. But I said, okay, now it's the true litmus test is, what does Alexandra think of this? And when you came back with that is freaking great. I love it. I knew we had something good.
It's awesome. Thank you. And thank you. You are such a big success story. I love when people read my book and then they come back to me and say, this is what I did with it.
Yeah, so for our viewing audience that can see this, Alexandra has her book in the background. I'm going to hold it up, this autographed copy of Hello, My Name is Awesome. This book, when I first got it from Alexandra, I was not in that mindset of needing to change my brand name. So it sat on my bookshelf for a few months. But then when I got to that point where I knew I needed to make a change, I picked this book up and I did not put it down for a whole weekend. Other than little sporadic points, I read the whole thing and then applied the process. And we're going to dig into this more today with Alexandra, because as we rolled through this season where we're talking about establishing an impactful brand, name is critical. And I knew I was at a point where I needed to make that change because I was using my last name as my brand name and I was getting bored with it. I've had this name for all these years. You just keep saying it over and over. Something cool needs to come from that. And I wasn't feeling it. So I followed Alexandra's process to a T, and we're going to hear all about that today. But I highly recommend, if you're in that mode right now, you check out this book because it's going to change your perspective. And Alexandra, you're a hell of an author. The way you put this book together, I was laughing like hell as I was going through it. So all good from cover to cover.
I tried to look, I know how boring business books can be. And I know that most people don't finish them. They start them. And I wanted a book that like people would read every word. And yeah, I worked really hard to make it funny and entertaining, and while, sharing all my knowledge as well.
Excellent. Well, let's tap into that a little bit, Alexander. For those that don't know who you are, give us some background of who you are, what you do, how you got into naming, and ultimately how you're changing the world with everything you do.
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you. Yes, I'm Alexandra Watkins. I'm the founder of a naming firm called Eat My Words. We're named that because we started out naming things that make people fat and drunk. My claim to fame is that I named the Wendy's Baconator. And the Baconator has become so famous, it has its own Wikipedia page. It was recently the answer on Jeopardy and the New York Times crossword puzzle. So I think that's when that's when a name has,
the name has arrived. Yes.
Yeah, you've arrived. Exactly. So yeah, the Baconator is definitely my claim to fame. And so I have had my firm for almost 20 years, and now we name everything from robots to racehorses. I do a lot with people that have personal brands that want to, like you, Jason, you were using your own first and last name as the name of your podcast, but your name didn't say anything about you. So that's what I help people do is, let's find a name that's super memorable. And can I just give you guys one example that this will, you say, let's blow this up. Let's blow everybody's mind. Okay.
Do it.
Who is Jimmy Donaldson? Do you know who Jimmy Donaldson is?
I don't know.
You don't? And I know this from speaking to Ty Lopez's audience recently, that your listeners don't know they think they don't know who Jimmy Donaldson is, but all of you know who Jimmy Donaldson is. Jimmy Donaldson is Mr. Beast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is.
Kidding.
Yeah, so I see you're like, oh my God. Okay, so would Mr. Beast, Mr. Beast is a gazillionaire, right? He's so successful. Would Mr. Beast even have the type of success that he did if he was just some guy named Jimmy Donaldson? No, he would not. He has a brand name that's so recognizable, so much fun, so cool. And like, I was in the store the other day, and in 3 different places in my supermarket, I saw Feastables, his food brand. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like one had like a full-on display. It was also at the register. Like, the guy is so successful. And I'm positive his name, Mr. Beast, had a lot to do with that. So if you can give yourself a name that's super memorable, or a moniker, you could call it, that's going to help, because you want something people can remember. And no one's going to remember Jimmy Donaldson. I had to look it up. Right before this call, I had to go, wait, Jason, give me a second. I need to look something up because I forgot his name. I was like, no one's forgetting Mr. Beast. You hear it once and you remember it.
No doubt. And that is blowing my mind, because I never even really thought about it. Honestly, you start to make these associations with these brands that you see, and that's it. As long as you have some sort of connection to it, going deeper to find out the real name, it never even crossed my mind to do that.
Yeah.
Not that I follow the guy religiously, but still I'm very familiar with what he does. And I've never once thought, what's this dude's real name? I thought maybe his first name was like Bob and his last name was Beast.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to induct him. I haven't mentioned this to anybody yet, but you're the first to know. I'm going to induct him into the new Eat My Words Name Hall of Fame. Because he deserves an award for that name.
Also, now I have something else I have to strive for. I got to get into the Hall of Fame. No, that's beautiful. No, you're dead on. And again, like for me personally, and I know that there's going to be some potential pushback from some people that have really built strong personal brands and even business brands out of their names. Like Amy Porterfield's one that jumps to my mind immediately. Gary Vaynerchuk, although he's Gary V. That's the brand.
He became Gary V. Which was for him to do.
But for me personally, like, of course, I love my name, but as a business entity, I started thinking of that long-term big picture. is this fun for anybody to say? What does my name look good on a t-shirt? No, the answer to all of this was no. And ultimately, one of the big driving forces for me to know that it was time to make that change. What if someday I want to sell?
Yep.
And I get to that point. I mean, I know I'm not there now, but someday I'm hoping to be.
Yeah.
I think it's a little easier to detach from Bombtrack Media than it is Sircone, because that name's going with me to the grave. So I felt that was the right time for me to make that jump.
No, absolutely. And I took I did a questionnaire recently about selling your business. And one of the questions was, is the business named after yourself? Because that does make it harder to sell. People expect you will be part of the business. So yeah, that's a great thing about it. Because I used to use my own name before I had to Eat My Words. I just used Alexandra Watkins. And once I became Eat My Words, like suddenly I had a brand and I had a lot of wordplay that I could have, yeah, our blog is called The Kitchen Sink. We have a dollars to donuts value menu. So we have a lot of fun with the name. But yeah, like you do with Bombtrack Media, and that's one of the things I want to talk about, just the incredible legs that your name has.
Yeah, that was for me, again, when it hit me, and we'll talk more about the process, but when this name hit me, I thought for sure, I'm like, there's no way this is available, that somebody's had to be doing, like, using this name. I was shocked. There was a bike company named Bombtrack, and that was it. Like, I can't believe how wide open this is. And then immediately, I don't even think I went 3 minutes after that first discovery that, oh my God, I can run with this, that I named this podcast. Because I just started thinking of all the wordplay that can go with it. Listeners are part of the Bomb Squad.
That is the
Let's
best.
blow this.
I'm sorry. That is like my favorite name of a group ever. Yeah, I can't even. Yeah, it's just so good. People want to be part of the Bomb Squad.
Right? Like, to me, there is just so much to it. We're creating explosive content.
Yeah.
You can get bombed with your podcast. Again, I mean, I haven't really fully vetted all of these, but no, there's just so many ways to utilize this on merchandise, to utilize it with social media. Overall, I'm creating a brand presence that's fun, but I'm also, like, the main objective of what I do with Bombtrack Media is helping companies and brands create explosive podcast content, but do it in a way that saves them time and reduces their stress. So if they want to spend some time getting bombed, since they have all this available time, they can go out and have a drink or two and celebrate. You're right, though. I do appreciate you saying that, because that was a big part for me, was looking at immediately when the name hit, there was so many different things that came to mind. I was like, I can't wait to run with this. This is going to be awesome. And here we are.
Love it. Yeah.
Well, we've touched on this, obviously, Bombtrack Media being one, Mr. Beast being another, Baconator being a third. Tell us about some of the qualities of having a strong brand name.
I'm so glad you asked. So actually, as you know, I have a test called the Smile and Scratch Test, and it's based on my philosophy that a name should make you smile instead of scratch your head, and you have that in spades. I can't stop smiling with the Bomb Squad. That's just the best. So yeah, smile. So smile is an acronym for the qualities that make a name great. So these are things that you want your name to have. You want your name to be suggestive, right? So like you with Bombtrack, explosive, right? It's super good. Yeah, you want your name to suggest a positive brand experience. And then the M in smile stands for memorable. What makes something memorable? Well, if it's based in the familiar, right? And, so I can keep referring to your name. So your name has all of these things, but
please do.
I'll use the name of my company, Eat My Words. It's a familiar phrase. And it's much easier for people to remember things that they already have an association with. So if something's already in our brain, it's going to be easier for us to recall it later from our brain's dusty filing cabinet, because you never know when you're going to need to remember a name, right?
Right.
So that's memorable. Then the I in smile stands for imagery. I mean, bomb, there's so much imagery with bomb, right? Like bomb, when you said Bomb Squad, like I looked out my window one day when I lived in San Francisco, and the Bomb Squad was right below my window. But yeah, everyone will have some kind of association with that. So when you can picture something in your head, when you hear it, it makes it easier to recall later. And that's really important, right? We're always, it's like we struggle with people's personal names, right? Like, what was that guy's name? You run into somebody, you're like, oh, I can't remember their name. But if they have a name that is like, I met this guy one time named Forrest, and it was even before Forrest Gump. And like, you can just picture a forest in your head. Or I met a woman named Daisy, right? Or I met a guy named Chopper. He used to be a helicopter pilot. I met all of those people on the same trip to New Zealand, by the way. But like Chopper, you just, these are names you remember, right? Because names that are nouns are really easy for people to remember because you can picture something. So, and then the L in smile, this is a really big one. It's hard to have, but when you have it, you're golden. So you have it with Bombtrack. So legs means that your name lends itself to a theme and you can really extend the mileage. So let me think of one that we haven't talked about yet. Okay, we named, this woman is a PR, public relations pro. Her name is Lynette Hoy. She, like us, was using her own name, but Lynette Hoy says nothing about her being a fiery publicist, which is what she is. So we, actually I did this one, branded her company Fire Talker PR with the tagline hot on the press because she was relentless. And she calls herself, so then she gave herself a title, the fire chief. She works in the firehouse, right? And we all have our little HQ, right? If we're, obviously if we're in corporate, that's different. But if we're working for ourselves or have a small business, we can name our office whatever we want. So when I lived in San Francisco, I had a really colorful loft. And so our office there was named Candyland. And so Lynette, it works in the firehouse. She has packages for her services called, she has fire starter, controlled burn, some things like that. Her webinar is called Ignite Your Visibility. And she has a theme song, and everyone should have a theme song. And hers is Fire by the Ohio Players. So if she's doing a speaking engagement, she'll crank that song up. And people just like it, like my theme song. I always forget to tell podcasters, Sugar Sugar by the Archie.
I can weave it in. Well, actually, I can't. There's probably licensing problems there. But
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I was doing a podcast the other day with this guy named Steve Ramona. And the whole time I was talking to him, like in my head, I'm thinking of that song, My Sharona. And it's like, Steve Ramona. And so I asked him later, I'm like, do you know that song, My Sharona? And so he like, I said, go on Fiverr and get someone to record it for you and make it your voicemail. So he did that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do a lot with the theme song. So that's the L in smile, legs. And yeah, that's what we're really good at Eat My Words, is coming up with names that do lend themselves to a theme, because we want to blow it out. We want to, create t-shirts and merchandise and all of that. And that's what you can do with the name with legs. And then the E in smile stands for emotional. You want your name to make an emotional connection. It's really important that it resonates with your audience. Otherwise, it's just going to go right over their head. So those are the 5 qualities that make a name awesome.
So I'm thinking back to what you were saying about Lynette. So she works in the firehouse. I guess that would make my podcast studio the bomb shelter.
Oh my God, that is so good.
Just came up with that off the top. But it's so easy.
You are so like, oh my God, this is like, I swear, like 5 minutes before I was going on air with you, I got an email from Chai Lopez's people saying like, hey, can you do this thing for us on Thursday? And I'm like, yeah, but I wanted to change it up. So like now I have this whole thing when I talk about legs, you're the example I'm going to show.
Woohoo!
Awesome.
I love it. No, but I think me just coming up with that on the spot speaks to the enormity of having that powerful brand name and really emphasizing that L, having those legs, because it becomes easier. Yeah. So you don't have to stress out trying to think of things like that. Like I've never really felt the need to name my podcast studio, but that has a cool sound to it.
Oh my God. Right? It's awesome. You need something on the wall behind you that says the bomb shelter. I've
been thinking, I am friends with a girl on Instagram who does art, and I was going to commission her to do something because I've got this picture of Pittsburgh behind me, which is okay, but I would like to get it more bomby in here.
Yeah. So. Well, you also need, so I don't have one here, but you need a coffee mug that you send to your guest that says, let's blow this up. And then have it, this is who is this? Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline. Not blowing your BS. His wife is one of my students. I teach a naming course. There we go. But you need a mug so that when people make Let's Blow This Up on the side, so when your guests are on another podcast, they can have Let's Blow This Up, or on Zoom call. I want to be on a Zoom call with something that says Let's Blow This Up. It's such a great conversation starter too. I'm like, oh, what's that? What's Let's Blow This Up? Oh, it's a podcast I'm on. You should subscribe. So yeah, and then put it on this side too, so then they can see it on both sides.
That's an awesome idea. All right, now I've got homework, and that is good homework. So let's talk about the other side of this. I know the bad side.
Yes.
Your book.
Dark side.
My God, your book, that part of your book had me in tears. I was laughing at some of those names. It just makes me wonder. And I know we've even taken this so far as to share some things on LinkedIn, you and I, and or you've seen them and I've commented, or vice versa. It is just some of the most brutal decisions in the world to see some of these brand names made. So where does this come from? Like, what are these people thinking? What goes into this? Like, coming up with these names that it blows my mind. Not
my gosh,
pun intended, but my God.
No, I look at those names and it's like, whoa, somebody approved that name. Yeah, people aren't thinking. People are desperate. They're desperate. They've been pulling their hair out for months trying to come up with a name. It's the last piece of the puzzle. They need it to do, they need to make the logo, build the website, get the LLC, and they're just waiting on that name, and they're so desperate, and they don't care at that point. They're like, I just want to find an available domain name. Okay, stop right there. Don't start by looking for a domain name. We never look for domain names until the very, very end, and no one expects anyone to have an exact match domain name anymore. Just add a modifier word. If we weren't eatmywords.com, we could be Eat My Words, branding, brand names, naming. There's so many different things you can have. We could be Hello Eat My Words, or, there's so many different, and if you get my book or you take my course, there's lots and lots of different modifier words that you can add, or phrases. So don't start there. I want to loop back to domain names because I can give people a lot of good advice there. So Scratch, like I said, that's in the way to think of Scratch is, if it makes people scratch their head, scratch it off your list. So the S in Scratch is the biggie, and it's spelling challenge. Your name should not look like a typo. Your name needs to be spelled exactly as it sounds. Otherwise, people are going to butcher it. You're going to frustrate people. So your name needs to be friction-free, frustration-free. Think of trying to open a package with all that, how they have that frustration-free packaging. Your name needs to be frustration-free. So you don't want someone to get their email sent back because they spelled the name of your email wrong, because they spelled tackle TACKLE instead of TAKKLE, right? Or they spelled Zobny ZOBNY instead of XOBNI. So yeah, spell it exactly how it sounds. Trust me, I've been doing this long enough to know when you will be in a world of hurt, and it's anytime you have to explain your name to somebody, and that's what happens with all these Scratch things. When you have to explain to somebody, oh, well, I spelled it that way because I couldn't get the domain name, you're apologizing for it. Anytime you apologize for your name, you are devaluing your brand versus having a great name, like your name. Oh my God. People think, oh my God, the bomb shelter. That's hilarious. The bomb squad. Like, it's all positive from the get-go. You were like hitting the ground running with, you're at a conference and you have Bombtrack Media on your name badge. Like, that's a conversation starter in the best way possible, not a, XOBNI, like WTF. Like, what is that?
It's like an eye chart. I've seen some of these names look like you're reading an eye chart at the eye doctor.
Oh my God, that is so good. Wait, I have to steal that. I'm sorry. We have a great graphic of these super nerdy boy and girl, like with these giant like Coke bottle glasses on, trying to read the eye chart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is good.
My gift to you. It's the least I could do.
Thank you, Jason. Oh my gosh. Okay, so spelling challenge, big no-no. The first C in Scratch stands for copycat. Nobody likes a copycat, right? We learned that in elementary school. You know, copycat.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? So look,
sure.
why be somebody else when you can be yourself? And, you know, my favorite, I forget the one I heard recently, but the one that I talk about a lot is there's a frozen yogurt brand called Pinkberry. And I don't even think it's a great name at all, but it was copied so many times, you know, Yo-berry, Yumberry, Coolberry, Blissberry. I have a whole slide with like, you know, 40 different copycat names. Even the name Red Mango is a copycat of Pinkberry because it's a color and a fruit. So when we've named 3 frozen yogurt stores. None of them have a fruit or a berry, or fruit or a color or a fruit. The wildly successful one was Spoon Me.
Yeah.
And, right? So Spoon
Love
Me.
that story was phenomenal. I love hearing how that one came together.
Yeah, Spoon Me. Yeah, and that name had great legs. So they had T-shirts, Shut Up and Spoon Me. Bumper stickers, if you're driving this close, you might as well spoon me. They had booty shorts. Yeah, they got so much mileage out of that name. So that's copycat. So, and also when you copy somebody else, you're opening yourself up to trademark infringement. So you want to make sure that you do the work and have the trademark research done, and that you file a trademark on your name. If you need a hookup on that, I highly recommend Indie Law, INDIE Law. They're awesome. If you forget that name, just find me at eatmywords.com. Just send me a message there and I'll hook you up with Indie Law. So that's a copycat. Then the R in Scratch stands for restrictive. And that means that you outgrow your name. So an example of outgrowing your name is, I don't think they ever saw this coming, but 24-hour fitness. Not all the locations are open 24 hours anymore. Uh-oh. The 99-cent store. Okay. Look, they suck, man. Look, the 99-cent store, I used to love that store, but now things are like some things are still 99, like $1.99, $2.99, $3.99. No. That's not fair. Now the Dollar Tree, I think, still works. They're $1.25 now, but it's not the $1 store, you know, it's right. Dollar Tree. Okay. And I love them. Where I live in San Diego, they're good. I know that both those stores were just terribly on last night, tonight. But yeah, in San Diego, at least where I live, the Dollar Tree is awesome. So that's restrictive. You do not want to outgrow your name. So when you are naming your company, look into your crystal ball and think, what could I grow into? And look, we don't know what's down the road, right? Like, look, AI, man, that slapped everybody upside the head. And we're still like, oh my God, every day, like, whoa. Mm-hmm. So we don't know for sure what's happening down the road, but try to take a guess. I mean, like, I'll tell you one more quick story. In Canada, there's a store called Canadian Tire, and they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And 9 out of 10 Canadians go to Canadian Tire once a week. Well, it's not that people need tires all the time. It's that Canadian Tire sells way more than tires. They are kind of like a Walmart meets Home Depot, and they sell, toys, trampolines, trees, tropical plants, all kinds of stuff. And they're, tools. So they outgrew the name Canadian Tire in the 80s. Yeah, and right. Their tagline for a long time was, we sell more than tires. Like, if you have to explain your name and your tagline, I don't know if you remember, Burlington Coat Factories were more than just coats. Fast signs for years, their tagline was, more than fast, more than signs. Like, what a waste of a tagline. Just change the name already. So, yeah, you have to, look, if you're a company, and it's never too late to change your name. We have changed the name of 2 companies that are more than 100 years old. One was a bank in Kansas named First National Bank of Syracuse. They were based in Syracuse, Kansas, but no one in Kansas wants a New York bank, and it sounded like a New York bank. Right. So we rebranded them Dream First, because they're all about making dreams come true. And then there was a big chain of healthcare, the community healthcare centers serving the underserved population of Los Angeles. And they love their name, but they were forced to change it for legal reasons. And it was Queen's Care. And they love that name, Queens. And it's really, look, when somebody hires us to change their name and they love their name, it's so much pressure because they don't want to give it up, but they're being forced to. And the branding firm, we were working with another branding firm on this, and the guy's like, look, you guys just got to let go of that name. Like, just stop because it's going away. You know, I'm not that mean. But we rebranded them to a name that they love. So they're faith-based. So the name that we rebranded them was Grace Light. And Grace Light is really pretty, right? It's got all these, you know, we talk about a name with imagery, Grace Light. Like it sounds very spiritual, but it, you know, higher power, you know, just a beautiful, pretty name. So that's, yeah, like something in a, it was inspired by, I was in the Chartres Cathedral in Paris, or outside of Paris, and just the light coming into the cathedral. That's where the name was inspired by.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's never too late to change your name, and it's easy. You change it. You do a website redirect. You send emails. You do social media. So look, if your name is difficult for you or your customers, don't freak out about changing it, or don't keep using it, right? How many times in your life have you changed something and just thought, oh, I wish I had done that a long time ago, right? Okay, so that is restrictive. And then the A in Scratch stands for annoying. And annoying means that your name it annoys people, right? So what's annoying? Spelling your name backwards. So I just Zobni a couple times, Xobni. Zobni, no one would know this, is inbox spelled backwards. So spelling your name backwards, having a number in the middle of your name. Yes, it may help you get a domain name, but if your name Coast to numeral 2 Coast, you are always going to have to spell that out for people. Oh, it's spelled Coast to Coast. It used to not matter because we didn't have domain names or email addresses.
Right.
So people could get away with it. But now, Coast to Coast, you never want to have to stop and explain something, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, numbers, or if your name is ambiguous, the name, there's a company called Third Love. And women listening to this may be familiar with it. Jason, do you know Third Love?
It's a bra company, I believe, right?
It's a bra company.
Yeah, I've seen that online.
Why is it named Third Love? Like, it's so ambiguous, right? Or do you know why? I forget why. It's something about lingerie or bras or your third love. I don't know. It's dumb. I have no idea.
All right. I'll go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Then another ambiguous one is Orange Theory. They're like gyms, fitness centers. Orange Theory, for the longest time, I thought it was a juice bar. You know, like Orange Julius. I'm dating myself here. I maybe Orange Julius still exists.
It does. I'm pretty sure it's in one of the malls here in Pittsburgh.
Yes. I'm 30 years old. Orange Julius still exists. Okay. So yeah, Orange Theory, and I know that inside there, like hitting the orange, like level orange, like means something, but still, it's a weird name. Yeah. Now, the best name I have ever seen for a gym. Now, I don't know. I think you'll get this. Is Spinach.
Spinach?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe Popeye.
Like Popeye?
Yeah,
okay.
like Popeye. I just thought that was really fun.
I get that connection, but
I don't know.
Gen X. I mean, I don't know. That might be a little bit out there.
I don't know because I don't know. Like, do people still watch Popeye cartoons?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know the last time I've ever seen a Popeye cartoon aired, other than on like the old, like I don't know what channel, but there's some old cartoon networks that play those old cartoons.
Maybe they're appealing to people of a certain age.
I like Crunch Fitness for a gym. I think is
Crunch
awesome.
is a great name. I love the name Crunch because you're doing crunches and you're in a crunch and
a lot of
Crunch. Yeah, I've always loved that name. Okay, so that is, oh my gosh, annoying. Okay, so then SCR. The T stands for tame, and you do not want your name to be tame, right? So look at Jimmy Donaldson. That name's tame, right? It's just like, it just sounds like the most hetero white name, right? Jimmy Donaldson.
You know who I think of with that name? I think of the reporter,
Sam
anchor,
Donaldson?
Sam Donaldson. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really stir up any emotion or make me
Yeah.
excited in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So you don't want your name to be tame. You don't want a name like, Joe's Dry Cleaners. You need to stand out, especially if you're trying to build your brand, which everybody is, right? You need a name that's not going to be a wallflower. And the bolder you can be, like with Bombtrack Media, the bolder you are, the more memorable your name will be. Mr. Beast is a really bold name.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people remember it, right? So be bold.
Right
and
on.
if you are developing your own brand, you can afford to be bold. If you're like big corporate, they're, probably not. But hey, if you're just, a solopreneur, small company, you can afford to have a name. Like we named a law firm. We've named a lot of law firms, and I love naming them because it's wide open. There's so many opportunities because a lot of law firms are still named after partners. So there's not the trademark issue that we so often encounter with really saturated industries. So this attorney, her name was Layla Benajamali, and she knew that her name would be hard for people to remember, to spell, and pronounce. So she wanted a name that would be attractive to her clients, which were startups in the Bay Area that needed their foundational documents. So we gave her a really bold name, and it's Bedrock. So when we named her Bedrock, she suddenly started attracting the type of clients she wanted to work with. People that thought that was a cool name, right? She didn't want to work with stuffy people.
Right.
Stuffy people want to go to a stuffy law firm. She's the least stuffy attorney I've ever met. And Joey at Indie Law, I told you guys about Indie Law. Joey is my spirit animal. He's different than Layla Benajamali, but he is the most when you see Joey, go to indielaw.com, look at his video. You're like, I want to work with this guy. I love this guy. Yeah. And Layla she is so charismatic. So people want to work with people they like, and that's another reason to have a memorable name. But shake things up. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be different. Like one of the frozen yogurt stores that we named Rehab. And the reason we named it Rehab, it was targeted at like young kids, or not elementary school kids, but teens. And we thought it would make a really fun t-shirt, or like, hey mom, I'm going to rehab.
Right.
like same with one of the names that came up with for Swoon Me was Siberia, because we thought it would be really fun. Like, hey mom, I'm going to Siberia. Like we're always trying to think of how will the name be used.
Didn't you rename why am I forgetting this now? Wasn't there a bar that used to be a church or something to that effect?
No, we named a cupcake store, and the woman that ran the cupcake store, the owner, her name was Portia Lovely, and her store was named Lovely Confections, but no one knew that was her last name.
Right.
So no one knew that she was cupcakes, because confections is usually candy. So we rebranded her the Church of Cupcakes with the tagline "Worshippers Welcome." She called herself the Church Lady.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Because we had a bar in Pittsburgh that used to be a church. We actually have a brewery that's a church too, or was a church at one point too. So we really know how to repurpose and rebrand the churches here in Pittsburgh. There is no question about that. So I think I just got my wires crossed with that one.
Yeah, that's okay. No, like religion is one of those great themes with legs, right? Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things that we did for her. Now this requires people to think a little bit. For that, we named her flavors, and the vanilla cupcake we named the Missionary.
I get
it. Yeah. Takes a minute. Like, oh, that's what I call a wink wink name. Oh, yeah. One of the t-shirts we did for her was "Forgive me, Father, for I have binged."
Nice.
Blasphemous.
Creating engaging, explosive content that positions your brand as an authority and go-to resource in your industry doesn't need to be complicated, stressful, or time-consuming. All you need is a strategy that sets you up for success and a partner to keep you on the right track. This is my mission at Bombtrack Media. I'll show you the most efficient way to produce brand-elevating content that can be utilized throughout your digital footprint, all done with your goals and busy schedule in mind. You're not a full-time podcaster. Why commit to a full-time podcaster's schedule? It's time for you to blow this up and rethink how you grow your brand. Visit bombtrackmedia.com today to learn more.
Oh my gosh, the best. Okay, so when I was writing the second edition of my book, I was looking for examples of lame names, for the scratch, like you said, the scratch chapter is really funny. So I'm like, okay, what are some lame names? So I went to mallofamerica.com and I'm looking at names and I see this store named Sweet Jesus. And I'm like, oh my God, sorry, I'm not a religious person. So I'm like, oh God, all they sell is Jesus stuff. So then I looked and it was an ice cream store called Sweet Jesus. And they were so blasphemous. So they hadn't opened yet. They were coming soon. And there was like petition to try to get them to stop coming in. If you ever look up Sweet Jesus, look at Sweet Jesus ads or posters on Google Images. Oh my God. I mean, I love them. They
leaned into it, didn't they? Didn't they lean into all of the backlash? There you go.
They did. But not hard enough, man. Like I went to their store in Toronto and like it barely even registered there. Like their posters, I would hang those posters in my office. They were that good.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean it goes back to what me and Steve Raddick were talking about in an episode this season, is the fact that you got to stand behind what you believe in. And if you come up with something like that has those kind of legs, maybe the fact that you're getting some pushback should tell you you're onto something. And that's when you lean into it and really push hard or push harder.
Exactly. So this is something to know. For every person that is offended by your name. So we named a nail salon in San Francisco in the Castro. The Castro is the historic gay neighborhood in San Francisco where Harvey Milk had his camera shop. And it was the same block as this nail salon that we named Hand Job.
Yeah.
So Hand Job has 2 locations. Hand Job is blasphemous, but for every person that's turned off by the name Hand Job, there's 10 people that love the name, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They sell t-shirts and, booty shorts and all that stuff as well. So, how we're always thinking, how can we monetize the name so people get their money back? So with Hand Job, we have Hand Job on our website. And if somebody comes to eatmywords.com and they're looking at our portfolio and they see the name Hand Job and they're like, whoa, that's not for us. That's okay. We don't want to work with you. If you don't have a sense of humor, if you don't think Hand Job is hilarious, Hand Job, hey, it may not work at Mall of America, right? But does it work in San Francisco in the Castro? Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I think location's a part of it too. You're absolutely right. I remember that story from the book too. That's hysterical. But that's the thing too. I mean, when you really apply the name to what they do and it works in that capacity, it laughs, it makes you laugh, but it's memorable. And that, like you said at the very top of the show, that's what it's all about, is invoking something memorable.
Yeah. And if you think about it, so if you have a retail store, think about, are people, I call it, I would say these are the names that people tweet and repeat. And of course, people aren't tweeting anymore. They're Xing that, like,
let's not. Oh God, there's a whole episode right there.
Hate the name X. Hate it. But
most people do.
Yeah, people take a picture of your name and they're like sending it to somebody. That's free advertising for you. When people are buying, a Spoon Me t-shirt, they're paying you to advertise your brand for you. That's unheard of. People wear, Nike, but, that 50 years of brand building. But Spoon Me, before they even open, so before Spoon Me opened a location, the sign, instead of coming soon, said spooning soon. On the door, it said no shirt, no shoes, no spoon. They were in Utah, so closed on Sunday, and it said no under hours, no spooning on Sundays. So they really had fun with the name. People wanted the T-shirt, even if they hadn't eaten there. I mean, the people were just clamoring for the T-shirt because it was fun.
Yeah, there's so much to that one. I love that one.
Thank you.
All right. Did you do C&H? You didn't do C&H yet, right?
Yeah, the C. Yeah, C is Curse of Knowledge. So Czech people are Curse of Knowledge would be like Orange Theory, or a name that is in a foreign language that people don't know, Swahili. So your name is loosely based on a word in Swahili. People don't know what it is. In San Francisco, there's a restaurant called S as in studio, P as in Peter, Q as in Quora, R as in random. SPQR. Impossible letters to remember, right? So if you were driving down Fillmore Street or you heard somebody talk about it and you're trying to wait, what was the name of it? If you're trying to ask Siri to find out what's the name, you're getting the letters all jumbled, right? It's not easy to remember. SPQR, Curse of Knowledge, big time. It is Roman or Latin, right? And it stands for the Senate and the Roman people. The Senate and the Senate and the Roman people.
Yeah.
Senate TS.
You're exemplifying it perfectly right now, right? Exactly.
It's horrible. And that's where the owners of the restaurant thought they were being clever. And look, if you go on, I do all of this with names. I really research them before I write about it. And I went on, to Google, what does SPQR stand for? Because I didn't know. And then there's just this debate online. Well, why is it, people that know Latin, well, why is it SPQR when it doesn't translate with the Senate and the Roman people? So even Nike, if you Google how to pronounce Nike, you will see so many people debating how it's pronounced. Is it Nike or Nike? And I will never forget reading this blog or a chat messages from some guy in a runner's chat saying that he works in a running store and people come in all the time asking for Nikes. So if you're in a running store and people are asking for Nikes, and Nike, they've transcended their name. It doesn't matter. People know, but people, it's like what. So this leading me into the H is hard to pronounce. Your name should only be able to be pronounced one way, and it's the intuitive way to pronounce it. Nike does look like it would be pronounced Nike. It rhymes with Mike and bike. It's spelled the same way. Yeah. There is a famous story. Well, I don't know how famous it is. Somebody told me this. I've tried to make it famous. A company in Silicon Valley paid a ton of money to a naming firm who named them Nectar, but they spelled it Nektar, Nectar. So they the spelling challenge, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody pronounced it Nectar.
Nectar, sure.
Yeah, Nectar, not nectar. And there's nothing they could do about it, right? It took on, people wanted to pronounce it the way they. So make sure that your name is only pronounced one way. If your name is pronounced two ways, if somebody is telling me about this company named Nectar and someone else is telling me about a company named Nectar, I have no idea it's the same company. None.
Right. And you're also probably immediately going to think, what do they do again?
I don't know what they do.
You don't know what they do? Because you're thinking nectar could be a number of different things. Nectar could be, if it's being literal, some kind of lotion that you put on your neck. And I'm sure I'm completely wrong. That's not even close to what it is.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. I mean, that again, just as you spitball what the confusion. Yeah. This is completely proving your point.
Thank you.
Obviously, there's a lot to understand there. And that's why I can't recommend your book and your courses enough, because it's going to give you all of these things that Alexandra has been summarizing today, and these stories that she's bringing to the table that are hilarious. And like I said, in the book, they're a little bit more spelled out and they're even funnier. But the fact that we live in this world where you can still have all this information at your disposal and still make those types of mistakes. It's pretty much inexcusable at this point. So if you're thinking about how to do this, use this book, use Eat My Words to the fullest extent. Like I said, when I came up with Bombtrack Media, I read the book from cover to cover and then went back through it step by step. Okay, I'm doing this step, and just eventually landed on the name that we've learned. Like I said, once I got Alexandra's approval, I knew I was onto something. Before we wind this all down today, because we're living in the world of artificial intelligence, AI, if you're into the whole brevity thing, how is that impacting the names of, or using ChatGPT, for example, to come up with a good brand name? Have you dipped into this pool yet? How can people utilize the ChatGPT tools to make this work?
Of course. No, and well, to give you an example of how it hasn't caught up yet, 5 AI companies have hired us in the last year to come up with a name for them. So if AI companies aren't able to come up, and they're all trying it, it's not like they don't know to try ChatGPT. So yeah, it's far behind. So one thing with AI, it's still, if you're asking it to come up with a clever name, it's still like so corny. I have a comparison now of we worked on coming up with names for a family travel game company. So one of the names I had was Tripopotamus, like hippopotamus, so Tripopotamus. ChatGPT is never going to come up with a name like that. It's just so far away. I mean, naming firms don't even come up with names like that. We're the only naming firm that does really clever names. But like I had Fee Fi Fo Fun, Fee Fi Fo Fam, Bored, like it's a board game, Bored Silly. So just fun names. ChatGPT, it's not there. ChatGPT can do taglines okay. I've seen some okay taglines, but you have to know how to prompt it. I use ChatGPT all the time to write rationale for like, why is this a good name? But I'll write a big prompt on like, tell me why, write rationale for like why this name is, speaks, evokes this, and this, and it will do it. But as far as coming up with names, it's good for kickstarting and brainstorming, but you're going to get a lot of dreck. And also one thing that people do too is I have this service where if you do use AI to come up with, people usually do a combination. They come up with their own, they use AI, but they don't know which is the best name because they get so much and like, I don't know how to pick it. And you can do the smile and scratch test on our website for free. And that will give you a little bit of a clue, but people are still unsure. You can hire me. It's $1,000. I will review all of your names. You get an hour with me. I'll review your names. I'll tell you which ones are the best names to move forward with. And then I often will come up with some others on the call and just say, okay, here's some more ideas, or here's some breadcrumbs. And, I'm very generous with people. I want people to be successful. So yeah, that's something that I do for people all the time. And I think if you go to pronamereview.com, you can do that. And for the smiley and scratch test, you can either go to eatmywords.com and click on test a name, or go to freenametest.com.
Love it. That's great. So now we know, again, I mean, just to hammer the point home as we wrap up the show today, the importance of your brand name. There's probably not any way to get around this. If you aren't putting emphasis on this from the very beginning, you're going to have a lot of trouble down the road, and you could create unnecessary confusion for your potential customers. I think back to one of the first companies that I ran. I didn't know that Alexandra existed, but this was many, many years ago. I'm sure you were still doing your thing, but we didn't have any of this at our disposal, and the name we came up with was not good. And it really did confuse people, and you had to constantly just hear the mispronunciations and then talk about what, no, it's like this. And when you get to that point where you're explaining yourself, like you said, Alexandra, it's a waste of time, and it has zero legs at that point. So
yeah.
So we know now, thanks to this great conversation today and all the insight that you've brought to Let's Blow This Up, naming your brand is critical, but it's a blast. Another pun.
Oh, that's a great one.
And I didn't even mean that one, but I loved the process. So I highly recommend for, again, our visual audience. Hello, my name is Awesome by Alexandra. Even the name of the book, right, is freaking cool.
Thank you.
Pick that up and check out eatmywords.com. Alexandra, I'm going to give you one opportunity here to plug anywhere else that you would like people to find you, members of the Bomb Squad that need more from you. How do they make that happen?
Okay, don't laugh at me, but because we work with so many big corporate clients, I did not ever get into Instagram, but now I have an Instagram account. I just started it. It's Eat My Words Names. So please follow me. And I only publish fun stuff. I put up 3 posts so far. Hopefully by the time this airs, will be a lot more. I just hired a social media team. So yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I will put a link to the book and to your website and to your Instagram account in the show notes. Bomb Squad, make it a priority to get on Alexandra's radar today because she's got some phenomenal information for you, as you've learned in the past hour conversation. Alexandra, thank you so much for bringing all of this knowledge and wisdom to Let's Blow This Up today.
Jason, thank you. I'm super excited I wish I was writing the 3rd edition of my book right now. I'd totally make you like the leg shop, like you would be all over the leg chapter, but I'm going to add you in all my presentations.
Well, again, I that is flattering. I do appreciate that. But again, I don't think I'd be here if it weren't for what you put in front of me.
Thank you.
So yeah, this is definitely a nice mutual admiration party that we're having here. But I have to say again, thank you for what you've done. And it's definitely helped me get to where I am.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. And please send me your logos so I can put those in the presentation.
Absolutely, I will.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thanks, everyone.